Welcome to Women in Leadership Talk, where you'll hear from successful women who are empowering other women with their stories of adversity, resiliency, and success. And here is your host, Vicki Bradley, founder and CEO of Women in Leadership Empowered.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Thank you for joining us today. We have another fantastic guest. We're going to be talking about life sciences, technology. So I'm thrilled to welcome Susan Tousi into the show today. How are you doing, Susan?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on the show. Look forward to our talk.
Me too. And we're excited to have you. And as always, audience, thank you for chiming in. We know you're chiming in from 50 plus countries, and we're super grateful for that. And let us know what you think of this conversation today. So Susan's going to enlighten us on all things life sciences.
I'll try.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you'll be great. So let me just take a moment and share with the audience a little bit about your background, Susan, and then we're just going to jump right into conversation and get things moving here. So Susan is the Chief Executive Officer of DELFI Diagnostics. They're a company that develops accessible blood-based liquid biopsy tests that deliver a new way to enhance early cancer detection. As soon as I read that, Susan, I was like, okay, I want to hear exactly how this works. She has extensive research and development background, as well as a business leadership experience across the life sciences and technology industries. She's adept at shaping and leading global commercial, sales, and operational strategies, and most recently held a decade-long tenure at Illumina Inc., serving as their chief commercial officer and until she joined DELFI in January of 24. So, Susan, I'm not going to go into all of your accolades because that would take up the whole podcast. Many great things that you've done. But let's just jump in and talk about what led you to life sciences and technology, and what's that journey been like so far?
I was inspired to go into life sciences and technology because I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I wanted to serve as a positive force in improving kind of people's healthy lifespan. I was driven by technology and innovation because I think that can be an incredible force in improving people's lives. I went into engineering not because I wanted to blow things up, but because I thought that was, technology was the way forward. And life sciences kind of came to me. I come from a long line of medical doctors, healthcare professionals. I have 2 children in medical school today, believe it or not. A third who wants to be a physicist, also scientifically driven. But I was always excited about doing something in the world of biotech, life sciences, healthcare, and applying my drive of innovation technology to improving people's healthy lifespan. And I found the perfect fit first at Illumina and now at DELFI.
Lovely. Sounds like a lot of, I can only imagine what dinner conversations are like. A lot of big brains sitting around the table. How do we solve all the world's problems? Like from a science perspective, that's very cool. And having kids that are following in your footsteps, that's pretty cool. Or finding their own way, I should say. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you've worked for a number of iconic brands, many achievements. Like when I was reading it, I was like, wow, like so many accolades. So what was it about DELFI Diagnostics that, really made you stop and pause? Because I'm sure many people were trying to recruit you to their companies.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I mean, after 12 years at Illumina and driving genomic sequencing into kind of the real, practice of medicine, I was inspired by what was going on in precision health, driven by this insight that we were now getting through molecular diagnostics. And DELFI was at the forefront, really taking a future-oriented approach to this opportunity of finding cancer in its earliest stages, kind of those patterns that are recognized from a simple blood test. And cancer tumors, even in their early stage, leave some telltale patterns that applying AI and machine learning and seeing how fast that industry is moving, applying that to this blood-based testing is kind of the secret. And DELFI does that in a way that really leverages the power of the data. And that leads to a very low cost, easy to administer. It's simple, one blood draw from a patient, and leads to very high sensitivity of detecting cancer at its earliest stages, at stage 1, where
Wow.
it's much more survivable. And so, our vision and our mission is all about making cancer less deadly through widely accessible. We want to make sure that this is available to everyone. Blood-based testing, and the fact that our test doesn't require you to be near a huge medical center or access to equipment that might not be in every community hospital. Our test just requires a blood draw, and that really spoke to me. I think these life-saving technologies should be available to everyone, not just in our country but around the world. So that's what inspired me to come to DELFI, and I could not be more pleased with that really momentous decision.
Wow, that's great. I mean, when you think about the millions of people that get cancer, right? And
Yeah.
often it's not seen, it's not found until much later stages. So, like, can you talk about, like, maybe share even some stories of success of,
No,
what
happy to.
percentages you're able to make that impact early?
Yeah, well, we went after the largest cancer killer first.
Mm.
So our first test on the market is called First Look Lung. It's for lung cancer. Lung cancer, speaking to kind of percentages, lung cancer is the deadliest cancer killer. 1 in 5 cancer deaths is from lung cancer. It takes more lives per year than the combination of colorectal, pancreatic, and breast cancer.
Wow, didn't
And
know
that's
that.
that's true of men and women in the US. It's actually true in most developed nations that it's the number one cancer killer. And yet the screening rate for lung cancer is very low. It's less than 6%. You have to get a CAT scan. You have to kind of be, in line to get one. And your doctor has to make sure you get pushed to do it. And a simple blood test could absolutely make a difference. So less than 6% of people of the population that should be getting tested for lung cancer do. We want to drive that much, much higher. And we're excited about the fact that we have major partnerships in large healthcare systems today, including Allegheny Health Network, OSF, Baylor, City of Hope, Allegheny, Allegheny, Beth Israel, Leahy, I should say, and more to come. And what we're seeing is that the availability of a blood test, when your primary care physician during the normal course of your visit finds that our initial intended use population is former smokers, and when they are alerted that you're a former smoker, they offer our test. We're seeing patients who have not gotten tested for lung cancer who should have been getting tested for the first time, because it's so easy to get their blood drawn, and they get an answer back in less than 2 weeks. So that's some of the success that we're seeing. And we have we're still very early in our market penetration, and we're on a breakthrough designation path with the FDA of getting it fully approved, which means that it would be covered by insurance for everyone in our country who's in the intended use population. And that's the journey that we're on. We want this test to be available to everyone in every corner who should be tested for lung cancer.
Wow. Wow. Well, and just that in itself, like, having these conversations with the FDA, that's a process in itself. I just had a lady on a couple of weeks ago, and that was one of the conversations we were talking about was like, the amount of regulation in trying to do preventative, because I see this as not preventative necessarily, but early detection, right?
Yeah.
And that can be cumbersome and take a lot of your time, right? Or your team's time away from, getting that message out there. So speaking of that, how are so the health organizations that are already working with you, how are they finding you? I guess is the
Yeah.
where I want to go.
Yeah. Well, we've had a great reception, especially with the kind of maverick kind of on the front line health systems that really see blood-based testing as the future of, kind of early finding cancer in its earliest stages. And I should have mentioned that lung cancer, typically has a very poor, prognosis because it's typically found late. But when it's found in early stage, the 10-year survival rate is 73%. This is a very survivable cancer.
Wow.
Immunotherapy drugs have really, kind of impacted the survivability, but they work better, when the cancer is found early. And so I think our providers, our primary care physicians, pulmonologists, the leaders of these institutions really see that data, and they are motivated to getting patients tested. So we're having a great response. We're doing a lot of training. We're showing how easily the test can be administered. We're working with them on the clinical pathway. If a person gets an elevated result on our test, what happens next? Then they should definitely get a scan to locate where the cancer is and kind of the next steps. But that's all going really well. And you mentioned it is a tall bar with the FDA. I think rightly so. There has to be meaningful clinical evidence. We all benefit from the fact that we have a functioning FDA that has a high bar for these tests. We have 3 clinical trials that we're doing. They're fully enrolled. We're generating a massive amount of evidence to really demonstrate not only the performance of our test, but also the real world evidence of our test meaningfully moving the needle on screening rates. And I also want to point out that we have a lot of friends in this fight, American Cancer Society being one of them. I'm proud to serve as kind of a CEO leader for our California region for the American Cancer Society, and I think they are so passionate and so helpful in kind of moving guidelines and making sure that Americans can get access to testing and making sure that patients who have cancer have a as successful a journey as possible through the healthcare system.
Nice. Well, I think that's huge. Cancer is it's a scary word. Everybody, as soon as they hear the C word, they all, everybody gets so nervous, and many of us have lost someone to cancer. So that early detection is so important. So when you think about, and I'm speaking more from a woman, and being a CEO of a up and coming, really changing the way we see things. What have been some of the toughest challenges for you so far?
Well, I think it's always a challenge to be doing something totally breakthrough and first
Yeah.
of. And a lot of people ask, well, why don't people get screened for lung cancer today? Why do only 6% of people get screened for lung cancer when, mammography is in the 70%, even kind of colonoscopies are in the 50%. And if you add FIT testing and, stool-based testing, it's like 70%. And why is lung cancer so low? And I think that there are misperceptions, like maybe people who are former smokers don't care about their health, which is completely false. We've been able to point out through large scale studies that have done that someone who is a former smoker is indistinguishable statistically from the rest of the population in terms of getting their colonoscopy, their mammogram, and having primary care visits, getting their cholesterol checked. So these are, I think there are perceptions that we fight against, and this is a population of 20 million people whose lives can be, really impacted by finding their cancer early. We've demonstrated that the availability of our test can save up to 10,000 lives a year in the US alone.
Wow.
And tens of thousands of lives if you expand to the world. And then, we have the opportunity to expand even beyond people who are former smokers. Lung cancer is increasing in rate and people have never smoked. So, we want to kind of pursue that as a next step. But this kind of misconception that people won't get screened is something that we fight against. It's probably been one of the more frustrating things. So
I'm sure.
I'm excited about this demonstration that we will have, that the availability of our test actually improves screening rates and that we're finding these people's cancer early. And I can tell you that is absolutely what drives, our employees every day. They have an opportunity. We hire the best and brightest. They have an opportunity to be anywhere else. They're here because they really believe in making patients' lives better, finding cancer early.
Nice. And so I'm curious, as you were just saying that about smoking, because I mean, there is a lot of, I would say data on secondhand smoke, but
Yeah,
also this new trend with vaping, right? Because
yeah,
you're saying the vaping is even worse than like cigarette smokes or
um,
cigars.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I don't think we know yet, right? Because, we don't have the kind of the decades of studies on what vaping is going to do. And, I think, we foresee a future. I definitely foresee a future where cancer is routinely found in a, blood-based test that's administered annually during your normal kind of physical as you're getting tested for other things, and that based on your genetic history, maybe some markers that might be specific to you, this is personalized medicine. You may be, tested more frequently or less frequently based on age and, exposure and all those things. And that we're routinely finding it early where it's treatable, where we have, maybe even kind of surgically operable and not a life sentence or a death sentence to individuals. And, I think we're always aware of there's new evidence that something that we're doing is causing risk to us, something we're eating or drinking or exposed to. And, we want to do our part in making sure that we're always like catching it as early as possible. That's kind of how we see our role.
Nice, nice. So so that's the challenges, but I always love to talk about the successes. Like,
Yeah.
when you think about your time at Delphi, like what are you most proud of so far?
Well, I mean, I'm super proud of the team that we've assembled to go after this. This is a hard thing to do. It's
Yeah.
hard scientifically. It's hard regulatory wise from, as the point you've made. And so hiring the team that can make this happen. I mean, our chief medical officer was already here when I joined the company, and he's phenomenal. He's a world-renowned authority in lung cancer screening. And same as Peter Bach. I hired our chief technology officer, Dr. Amulia Singh. She's fantastic. She's like,
Mm.
one of the best and brightest scientists in machine learning and AI applied to liquid biopsy and biomarkers. I hired a chief commercial officer who comes, as an expert in the industry of driving innovative tests, named Rob Geigley. Our chief finance officer, Tom Russo, who's had successful exits and in previous companies. I'm just really proud that we've been able to assemble, cherry pick really the best and brightest of
Mm.
the industry and the people they've hired, like to go after this phenomenal really, breakthrough mission that we have at Delphi. I'm proud of the fact that, we've enrolled all our clinical trials. We've read out our first trial very positively, a large screening trial that was based in the Netherlands and Europe. That we have major partners in health systems who believe in this, that we were able to launch the product commercially, that we've had published results in 11 kind of really foundational publications and leading scientific journals. Proud of the fact that we have an incredible group of investors who believe in this. We were able to add to that group. We had a fundraise since I joined the company led by Merck, their Global Health Innovation Fund. And we brought a number of other investors in as a result. We just supported and kind of partnered with, I think, the most inspiring people who believe in this, who fund the technology that goes beyond this and behind this and the clinical trials that go behind this. So those are some of the kind of the
A
most
lot of things to be proud
impressive
for.
things. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
like having that
absolutely.
team, having the brilliant minds that are so passionate about, saving lives, but, also being innovative and creative and, AI. Often I have conversations and a lot of people are hesitant or resistant, but then you see the things that AI can do and is
Yeah.
doing. The technology piece in total, like I'd love to hear your thoughts on, like how you're using it, how
Mm.
how it's speeding that process even because there's just so much innovation daily that somehow it's like somebody described the other day they said, do
Mm.
you remember when the internet came to life and all the resistors of the
Yeah,
www, and that's kind of where
yeah,
we are now, right? And it's
yeah,
fascinating just how people are either responding and really getting into or resisting. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
yeah. Yeah, personally, I think it's time to lean in and use the power of AI, actually, kind of driven and directed by human beings, by as
Mhm.
subject matter experts, but use the power of it to like have access to information. I mean, specifically in our test, AI is used to train on data. We have trained on tens of thousands of samples
Mm.
of cancer to look for every feature set that is molecularly present in that, in that blood-based sample to that is relevant to detection of cancer. And because there's so much, you couldn't possibly do it without sophisticated GPUs and AI processing this data, because it just does it in a time scale and at a depth that you could never do with previous tools. And so we use the AI to derive like the deepest insights from the data, but it is always like driven by a human being who is a subject matter expert, who understands the biology, who understands the kind of the physiology of cancer and the human reaction to it. And so it's AI, but it is in a very responsible way, because at the end of the day, this is a test that's going to be administered to patients. It might be your mother, it might be your family member, it will be everyone in our community. So we take that very seriously. And I would say our conversations with the FDA on this have been very positive. I mean, they want to learn how our test works, how we apply the AI, how we look at these features in these DNA fragments that come from cancer. And it's been very, very productive, very open-minded, and at the same time kind of, having a high bar as it should.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and even what you were just saying there with when you think about how much time, how much manpower, how much
Yeah.
resource it would require to gather the data, number one, gathering it, but then analyzing it and testing it. Like there's so many, I think, productive usage of how the AI
Absolutely.
tools can support us, right? And
Absolutely.
even when you think about care, like you talked about in the US, like, we are pretty lucky in North America in general having access, but in some countries that's tougher, right?
Mm.
And when you can do a blood test that can give you that signal to then prompt you to do the next testing if need be, like those are all positive steps forward.
Yeah, we absolutely believe so. And, I've, as I said, two children that are in medical school.
Yeah.
I think doctors are always going to be necessary. You want them to be the ones that are directing the AI and like looking at the information. But I just see them in medical school, like their access to information now, about a patient, about patients like that patient, about, kind of tests that they can use to drive like meaningful insight is like a whole different level than like when my father was going to medical school. So I think it's going to make a huge impact, a positive impact on people's healthy lifespans. And, we want to be on the forefront of that. We really believe in the power, applied responsibly, applied with, kind of guardrails on
Mhm.
really understanding it's not a black box. This is really understanding the biology, not overfitting to the data. And I think the same should be true in all aspects of our lives, AI used responsibly and for good.
Yes, I would agree on that big time. Yeah. Yeah, it's just interesting when you have those conversations, right? Because a lot of people are embracing it fully and being
Mhm.
super innovative and creative like yourselves. And then so many are holding back and resisting. And my
Yeah.
kids are in university as well. One just graduated and he's very resistant. And I'm like, this is where our world is, right? Like,
Yeah,
so it's figuring out how do you use it smartly and responsibly to
right.
do good in the world. It doesn't have to be something bad. I mean, yeah, there's always people who do
Absolutely.
stuff, but it's focusing on doing the really good. And the
Mm.
preventative, I think, is so important, right? Like,
Absolutely.
especially if you don't feel well and you are trying to figure out why. What is it?
Yeah.
So often we go to the doctor and we don't know how to even describe how we're feeling. And
Right.
they're trying to figure it out too, right? Because
Yeah.
every patient, every biology is so different.
Right.
So it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things from a personal perspective, Susan? Because you're like full throttle right now, really like,
Yeah.
burning all angles. So what are some of the things you're doing for yourself, for to
Mm.
maintaining that self-compassion for your well-being and
Mhm.
making sure that you're not getting to a place of burnout or too much?
And that can be a real risk, I think, in jobs like this, and kind of running, a private company, and really feeling the responsibility of that and the responsibility of our mission. I exercise regularly. I think that's really important. I try to spend a lot of time with my family, try to be connected with them. We're very, we're very much into spending time outside. So hiking and running and biking and like everything that we can do
Mm,
together, we really enjoy. Bringing all this together. And speaking of AI, my youngest, who's 17 at the time, and he's really into his health and exercise, and it's very physical. He's used AI to write a fitness routine for himself, and he says it's the perfect routine that like is targeting the places that he wants, and he wants to spend time with me. He thinks that women should, especially women in my age, should be thinking about building their muscle mass.
yeah.
So we're taking on a training program for me together using AI to see if I can build more healthy muscle, and so kind of spending quality time with my kids, even if it's something like that,
Love
is
that.
and it helps to kind of break up the kind of tension of work all the time, and do something that's fun together.
Oh my gosh, that's a brilliant idea. And that was his
Yeah,
idea.
that was his idea. He's taken it upon himself to be my trainer. So
Love it. I love it. That's amazing. Well, and to your point, that tackles the family, right? That gives you that one-on-one
absolutely.
time, but it also helps with your overall well-being. And he's absolutely right. We're probably close in age because I've been going through the same thing, like how to build that muscle mass and keep
Yeah.
ourselves strong and healthy so that we can do the work that we do. Wow. Okay. I love that. And
Mhm.
so if you think about like, because I know there's a lot of women listening to this call today,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
there's a lot of so many amazing women that are doing amazing work. What would be your advice to them when they're taking on a new endeavor or a new
Mhm.
challenge like this? Because this is quite significant.
Mhm. Well, I think as women, we tend to have little bit more susceptibility to whether it's imposter syndrome, or whether it's just like not having the confidence in ourselves. And this for me is something new. I went from like being an executive in large companies over the past few decades to running a startup company that's doing something breakthrough and innovative, and going from being like a C-suite, in the C-suite of companies, to being a CEO of an effort. And I had my moments of like, am I ready for this? Is this like the right time in my life to take on a big new challenge? And ultimately, I kind of came to the conclusion that I was thinking about it a lot more. It's what kind of like got me out of bed and excited, boy, like doing something where I can build the team, where I can build kind of the future for a company, from everything that I've learned, from what bigger companies have done well, and maybe what they could have done
Mm,
better. And it was actually it was my family that really pushed me, and they said, what, I put it to a vote, with my children, when I have three boys and my husband, as to whether I would leave Illumina to do something, to run a startup. And all of them voted in favor of me doing this. And they said, you've been the head of commercial, you've been the head of R&D, you've led businesses within kind of large companies. It's time for you to be a CEO, and time for you to go do something that you can really shape. And yeah, they all voted in favor. So
love
the, you
it.
know I think it's great to have believers. It's great to have a support system, and it's great to believe in yourself that you're kind of ready to do something new. And I would give that advice to any woman who's on the precipice of a big decision like that.
Nice, nice. And that's great advice. Sometimes you just have to get past the imposter and go for it, right? Or
That's right.
it's and having your family supporting you in it, like that's such a great suggestion. Like talk to your family about it. Like I love, love, love that.
Mhm.
Well, Susan, I am cognizant of your time. I know, like, it took us a little while to get on the podcast today, and so I'm super grateful for your patience. Really excited about the work that you're doing. I mean,
Thank
this
you.
is groundbreaking. It's like incredibly innovative on, how we can start to hopefully detect early. Doesn't mean we can stop it, but it means we can detect it. And if we detect it,
Right.
we can get the right treatments in place. So just
Right.
before we leave today, I'd love to hear, like, how do you keep growing? What's your
Mm.
favorite genre of learning? Book, podcast, whatever.
All of the above, and I've been reading more lately. I think that that is just like calming because we have so many screens in our lives all day long, and just kind of getting back to a book that's like actually a physical book is it's really, I think it gives me peace, gives me energy. And I mean, through the years and going through business school and everything, I've read all the leadership books. I think they've been fantastic. I've been inspired by like looking a little bit more about world leaders. I mean, they're on the grand stage, a whole different scale, but I think there's something we can learn from them. When you by book by Kissinger, that I think it's Strategies for World Leaders, but he profiles, seven of the most or six of the most meaningful, impactful change agents that have existed. It's Margaret Thatcher, Lee Kuan from Singapore, Henry Kissinger, Konrad Adenauer, who took Germany, out of World War II to kind of reestablishing itself. And Charles de Gaulle. I mean, every single one of them, he focused on one attribute. Like Charles de Gaulle, it was his will, and to kind of drive France back into a position of esteem and pride. Konrad Adenauer was humility, and how do you bring Germany out of the experience of the Nazi regime back into a member of the world stage. Anyway, and then every single one of them, there was something to learn. And Lee Kuan from Singapore excellence, and how he's really driven Singapore. I think there's something, about history, these world leaders who had so much passion and against so much adversity, but they understood the culture, they understood the past, but they had an absolute passion for the future and a dedication to it. And so I think that's been fun for me lately. That and poetry. I really love poetry, and I'm trying to kind of tap into that.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that, because even just the book you just shared, I mean, that opens your mind up to so much, right? And
Absolutely.
I think sometimes we get so busy that we forget about feeding our own souls, right? However we want to do that, but that is super important for your own well-being. Susan, thank you. Thank you for spending time with me today and for joining us for Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Super thrilled with the work you're doing. So thank you for that and taking time with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Vicki. It was fun. Enjoyed it.
Good,
Thank
good.
you.
And audience, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending time with us again today. Hopefully you've taken us on a walk with you. And now you've got some great, information that you can go back and digest and think about. If you know somebody who maybe having some challenges with, they need an early detection for cancer, but also thinking about how do you say yes to an opportunity? And those are always positive things to really discern what's right for you. Please visit us at Women in Leadership Empowered and check out our free leadership quiz. Let us know how you turn out as a leader. We'd love to hear. So take care, everyone, and have a beautiful day. And we'll see you on the next Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for WIL Talk, sponsored by Women in Leadership Empowered. To learn more about our programs, please visit www.willempowered.com. We look forward to seeing you in our community.